All right, I'm back with another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be going over how to meditate. And I'm going to show how you meditate with the scriptures and how our forefathers meditated to confirm their minds and resist double minded mentalities. So, to kick it off, I'm going to start off with the book of Psalms, chapter 1. And I'm going to start at verse 1. And it reads, "Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of scorners. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night." So meditation is a matter of confirming your thoughts through constant practice. So you can't just meditate for 15 seconds and expect your mind to be clear. And also, meditation is not necessarily just sitting there, right, and going like this, like a Buddhist, right, and just making noises like that's not meditation, right? Because like it's possible that your mind could be going, different places. When you meditate, I'll read this again. "But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night." So when you're meditating, or when you're calming down your mind, you want to be thinking about something. And what is this thing? You want to be thinking about the commandments, right? It doesn't always have to be the commandments. Of course, you want to do it in righteousness, but ideally, it's best to meditate on the law, because this is how the Most High establishes your heart. I'm just going to read verse 3. This is what happens when you meditate. "And he shall be a tree, and he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper." So when you're meditating and you're constantly thinking about the Most High's judgments and you're meditating in his commandments, you're going to be like a tree that's rooted, right? Different things that come into your life, right? Different emotions that you may have, is not going to cause you to go, to and fro and be anxious per se, right? You're going to be planted because you know that these commandments, right, will have the Most High establish you and give you protection. And it says, you'll also be able to bring it forth fruit in the proper season. So you're going to be able to go out there and teach. You're going to be able to, be a good wife, be a good husband, be a good son, daughter, whatever the case may be. You're going to be able to go out there and, display the fruits of the Spirit, right, in due season. It also says his leaf also shall not wither. So your life, right, it's not necessarily going to, like, your spirit's not going to wither because you're constantly meditating and you're constantly reminding yourself with the commandments, right? And you're letting the power of the commandments and the light, right? Because the law is a light and a lamp, right? You're allowing your light to continue to shine. And whatever you do, you're going to prosper because you have the Most High, in your mind. He's going to have you established. He's going to provide as long as you have confidence in the Most High God. So I'm going to get Joshua chapter 1 and verse number 8. And it reads, "This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night." There it is again. "That thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success." So once again, meditation is a constant practice to establish the thoughts in your mind, because different thoughts can come from different directions, right? Satan can enter your mind, right, and cause you to think things that are not true. So you have to constantly meditate on what the truth is. And the truth is the commandments, right? That never changes. So when you're meditating on that, the Most High is going to establish your mind. and allow you to think pleasing thoughts, right? In righteousness. He's going to give you certain ways to combat these spirits and cut them. Kind of like how Christ, when he was in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights, and Satan was tempting him, and Christ was able to basically cut him with the word that was written, that was given to him by God, because he was meditating in it, right? He was subjecting himself, humbling himself, and allowing the Most High to take control, right? So it's also going to make your way prosperous, because when you have the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, right, you're going to be better off, than a lot of people, right? This wisdom gives you knowledge that you can use practically in your everyday life. Real quick, just want to get Romans, quick precept, 15, and verse number 5, I believe. No, that's not what I want. I want Romans 15 and 4. My bad. And it reads, "For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope." So it's important to dive deep into the history of our forefathers, these different accounts of how they dealt with certain spirits, right? And how they established their minds and how they made their ways prosperous through getting themselves familiar with the judgments and the commandments, and doing this day and night, like what Joshua said. I want to get another precept. This is the book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 6, and verse number 37, I want. And it reads, "Let thy mind be upon the ordinances of the Lord, and meditate continually in his commandments. He shall establish thine heart, and give thee wisdom at thine own desire." So when you're constantly thinking about the commandments, when you're constantly thinking about the righteousness of the Most High God, he's going to establish you. He's going to make you his vessel, right? Wisdom cannot enter into a malicious soul, right? Let me get that real quick. That's Wisdom of Solomon. I looked that up real quick. And it reads, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1 and verse number 4. "For into a malicious soul wisdom shall not enter, nor dwell in the body that is subject to sin." And how do you know what sin is? Right? 1 John 3 and 4. "For sin is a transgression of the law." Paraphrasing. Right? So by understanding the judgments, right, and having them constantly in your mind, you're less likely to go off. Right? And it's a day and night thing. It's a practice. You have to have faith that through keeping these commandments and constantly meditating on them, you're going to be established. You're going to be able to fight these demons, right? And it's also important to know that meditation it doesn't necessarily have to be isolatory. Like, for example, if you're at work and you need, you're faced with a bunch of tasks, and you're at a point where you're super overwhelmed, you feel like you can never get your work done, you're super anxious, right? People are just asking you questions left and right, you feel like you can never sit down. When you have that downtime, or like you have a lunch break or like a short break, duck off into the bathroom, throw up some prayers, and meditate on the commandments. Establish yourself, right? Or calm yourself down. And that short time can, go a long way. And also it's good to, get out into nature, right? Which we'll read further on, and isolate yourself just for a little bit, right? To become closer to God, right? And listen for what he has to tell you through his through his word, through his commandments. Let me get real quick. Let me get real quick. I believe I want Genesis chapter 24, right? This is the book of Genesis chapter 24 and verse 63. And it reads, "And Isaac went out to meditate in the field at the eventide, and he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, the camels were coming." So Isaac, to meditate, he went out into the field at the even, right? He isolated himself and he meditated, right? Doesn't say exactly what he meditated on, but this is one way that you can meditate effectively in this world that we currently live in, right? Because there's so many different influences out there. Like that's why it's important to, get away from your phone, social media, these different distractions, right? That will cause you to be, distracted from reading the words of the Most High God. And it can cause you to kind of be lost out there and, feel as if, the Most High is not close to you. But it's important to, quiet your mind, right? And understand that the Most High is always working, right? Let me get real quick Psalms. This is a classic. 46 and verse number 10. "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth." So be still. Observe the things around you. Go out into nature. Watch the ants, working together, right? Watch the bird, putting together its nest in a high place in a tree, right? Observe how the water's flowing. Listen to the sounds, right? Know that the Most High God is all around you. All His creation is all around you, right? Let me get real quick precept. This is the book of Romans, chapter 1 and verse number 20. And it reads, "For the invisible things of Him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even His eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse." So these creations that we see in nature, right? How our heart is able to beat without us, giving it a command, right? How seasons change and animals move their habitations, right? Without even necessarily observing the time. They just kind of know it in their spirit, right? How, mothers are so protective over their children, right? Like these different things that we observe in nature, they can be clearly observed and seen that it was created by a creator, right? Right? So let me just read this again. It says, "For the invisible things of Him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made." So we know that this creation was made by a creator because of what we see around us, right? So to get out into nature and observe those things, that's how you be still. That's how you know that the Most High God, He's always working, right? Regardless of whether or not He's close to you, He's always working. He's always out there. And there's always a chance, as long as you breathe, right, to be reconciled back to Him. Real quick, I want to get a quick precept. Bear with me. Let me get the book of Lamentations, right? Chapter 3. This whole chapter is good, but I want to get verse 22. "It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because His compassions fail not." Right? It is of the Lord's mercy that we come to this truth. We come to the knowledge of who we are, right? That He has mercy on us and He preserves us. He preserves us from things that we don't even understand, right? Like you could have been driving home and there could have been a rogue car chase, right? On the street, right in front of you, right? But the Most High just had it, the circumstance happen where you had to just pull over because your tire was flat, right? For a couple seconds, or you perceived that your tire was flat. And then this car chase passed by you like 5 minutes, right? Ahead of time, right? And then you were able to pass through without being harmed. Like certain little intricacies like this, right? Things we can't explain, right? Are, of the Lord's mercy, right? And it reads on verse 23. "They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness." So every morning, the Most High God is compassionate. He's merciful, right? And as long as you breathe, you have a chance to repent, right? And come back to the Most High God and meditate, right? Get yourself acquainted with the commandments, with the precepts, right? Have a sword, right? Armor yourself with the armor of God, right? And you have to fight for this thing. You have to fight for soundness of mind. It's not something that just comes naturally, right? You can't just pray to the Most High God one time and He just takes everything away from you, right? Even Paul talks about that. Like Paul had that thorn in his side. He had that sin that he just couldn't get rid of, right? That sinful nature. That is a way to keep you humble so that you always know that the Most High God He's above you, right? How could you ever be perfect in the eyes of the Most High God in this flesh, right? That thought alone should be, humbling to you. And therefore, that's why you have to seek Him, right? Because He's the one that's going to heal these infirmities, right? He's the one that's going to give us the salvation and get us out of this terrible predicament that we're in, right? I want to get another precept. Let me get the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 39, right? And verse. What do I want? I want verse 1. But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High and is occupied in the meditation thereof, there goes that word again, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient and be occupied in prophecies. Right. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the commandments per se, right? But we know that, the ordinances and the statutes are scattered all throughout the Bible, right? All, scripture is given by God and profitable for doctrine, right? I'm paraphrasing, but you have to seek out the wisdom of the ancient, right? The accounts of our forefathers, what they went through, what they learned, right? And learn from it, right? And be occupied in prophecies. Be occupied in, the fact that the kingdom is going to be established, right? We're going to have dominion, right? In the kingdom, right? We're going to have we're gonna have our homes laden with silver and gold and ivory, and like we're gonna be giving beautiful prophecies, right? We're gonna be given beautiful inheritances, right? So meditate on these things, meditate how we're gonna be saved out of this sinful flesh. Meditate on how in the kingdom you're gonna be given a heart of stone, right? You're not going to be able to sin against the Most High God, right? The laws are really going to be programmed in your mind, so you can never go off. You can never sin again, right? No more sadness, no more gloominess, right? It's gonna be mirth and joy, right? And peace, right? These are things that you can meditate on to keep yourself hopeful, right? Let me get another preset. So it's important to always be meditating, right? It's not good enough to just have, a verse a day on the Bible app or, kind of open up your book and read a verse, right? Just you have to be constantly going through these things, as you're driving, when you have time, off from work, whatever the case may be, when you're out in nature, right? Set aside some time to meditate and remember how the Most High, He's faithful, right? And He's merciful. But of course, in righteousness, there's a just balance, right? The Most High is not always going to be, forgiving and things of this nature, right? In a certain sense, because we know that the Most High doesn't hear sinners, right? And we also know that judgments must come to pass on the earth. But of course, it's nothing to be afraid of because the Most High didn't give us a spirit of fear, right? So, moving on. Second Corinthians chapter 10 and verse number 4. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. So the things that we war against are not necessarily flesh and blood, right? It's about what's in your mind. Most things are manifested through your mind. Like whatever you're meditating on, that's what's going to be, in a sense, for lack of better terms, manifested in the real life. So if you're thinking about sin constantly, if you're thinking about going off, these things are going to happen, right? And let's prove that real quick. This is the book of James, chapter 1 and verse number 15. Matter of fact, I'll just start at verse 14. This is the book of James, chapter 1 and verse 14. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Here's the point. Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. So when you're constantly lusting, right, in your mind, it's going to bring forth sin, right? Next thing you know, the Most High is going to have you out there committing that sin, right? And when that sin happens, when it's all said and done, right, and you don't repent for that sin, right, if you don't turn back, right, and have your mind occupied on what he told you to do, right, it's going to bring forth death. Because the Most High is not going to have somebody that is constantly meditating on wickedness into the kingdom, right? Of course, we have some things that we can't control, but you always want to try and, day and night fight against these spirits, right, that are coming to test you, right? Ultimately, that's what it is, right? Certain spirits may hop on you, right? And this could be the Most High proving you to see whether or not you're fit for the kingdom, right? Whether or not you could be of the elect, right? And I just want to get one more precept and then I'm going to close out. This is the book of Proverbs. Chapter 24 and verse 16. And it reads, For a just man falleth 7 times and riseth up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. So the Most High is looking for people that, regardless of what's thrown at them, right, whatever test that's given to them, they're going to pass, right? They're going to get up every time that they're knocked down by something, right? If your mind is being plagued, right, you have to go within yourself and fight to overcome these demons, right? And it's a constant work of everyday repentance, renewing your mind, right, and not being evil to yourself, right? You don't want to give yourself over to like a heavy countenance, right? You don't want to meditate on things that you have no control over, right? And I want to get another quick point. Right? Bear with me. Real quick. I forgot what I believe I want. This is what I want. This is the book of Romans, chapter 8 and verse number 6, right? Going back to your mind. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. So when you're meditating upon the spiritual things, right, you're given life and peace, right? You understand that through these commandments, you're going to be saved, right? Through your faith in Jesus Christ and his sacrifice, right? And a constant reminding yourself, right? And repenting day and night, right? Is going to bring you closer to the kingdom, right? And it's going to give you peace. You see all the prophecies that are going on in the earth, right? You see people around you may be, suffering from things, right? Right? And you're seeing different spirits, right? Hop on people, hop on you maybe, but you have to overcome these things, right? And the best way to do that is to have the Lord in your mind, right? And meditate day and night. All right? So real quick, that's what I want. Right? I think I want verse. I think it's Matthew 10. Bear with me. I had it. It was in Matthew 24. Right? Matthew 24 and verse 13. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So when you endure these hardships, right? When you see this wickedness going on in the earth, if you meditate, right? If you bring yourself into the knowledge and constantly meditate therein, right? You're going to be saved when it's all said and done, right? You're going to be in a position to receive the kingdom, and your mind is going to be in peace regardless of what's going on the earth. The pestilence, the uprisings, the uproars, the earthquakes in diverse places, and so on and so forth. Your mind is going to be at peace because you're going to be established, right? All right. Lord willing, this was edifying, and I want to say shalom.